Cleveland, Cleveland.com Buckeye Talk coming to you from Ohio State football practice for the last time in the preseason. This will be our last post-practice preseason camp report. I'm Nathan Baird. He's Stephen Means. I tripped over that a couple of times. I'm in mid-season form here. But today was our final chance to talk to the receivers before the season. That was the last position group we hadn't had. So we got Brian Hartline. We got several receivers. We got to talk to Julian Fleming, who is a guy that we haven't really had a chance to talk to extensively since he came to Ohio State as the top-ranked receiver prospect in the 2020 class. I thought he gave some good insight into exactly what he went through as a freshman. First of all, coming in and feeling like he was behind everybody in terms of footwork, in terms of fundamentals, because while he was a really good athlete and a highly projected receiver, wasn't a very polished receiver, which is why guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba jumped out. And then also his shoulder injury that he had surgery on after the season, where he showed us he really had no range of motion with that, could not really lift it above his shoulder, and then finally now is back to good health. So I think those are all indications for people, give some perspective on why he didn't have a breakout freshman season and why they're slowly getting more confident in what he could do this year.
Yeah, I think I kind of wrote a story about this back in the spring, too, based off of something I asked Ryan Day and a bunch of other people. When you're at schools like Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and Clemson, where everybody's a 4- and 5-star thing, that's not what gets you on the field. There's a major difference than being good enough to play here and being ready to play here. Jackson's background is why he was ready to play here. He's from Texas, where he's getting the ball 100 times per game. Julian Fleming comes from a small school in Pennsylvania where they threw it to him 7 times, and because he was the best athlete on the field, he's going to catch it all 7 of those times. But there was always going to be a transition period where, as I asked him, he was going to have to learn how to play wide receiver in a way that Jackson wasn't going to have to learn. So even in a normal year, we probably wouldn't have seen as much of Julian Fleming as we would have of Jackson Smith and Jigba in year one. And it's also why Jackson's considered a starter this year, while with Julian, he's more the second guy in whatever rotation they have.
Another guy from Pennsylvania, though, who has made a big impact as a freshman is Marvin Harrison Jr. Chris Olave today name-dropped him as a guy that has really impressed him, that they think it's going to make an impact here this fall. He's going to play as a true freshman. Same for Emeka Egbuka. Guys we're not getting to talk to yet. They usually keep those guys away from us as long as they can during their freshman seasons. We don't often talk to the true freshmen. We did talk to Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was a guy who kind of made his splash last year as a freshman and then now is jumping in to be a starter now as a sophomore in this offense, is kind of taking the place that Garrett Wilson had last year in the slot. Wilson moves back to the outside. The biggest thing Brian Hartline said about him was kind of one of those things that coaches say a lot of times, and I don't know how much it matters when they talk about receivers. And they're like, oh, he's making a huge impact in the run game as a blocker, not taking handoffs, but as a blocker. But I think it does speak to where he, last year he was able to get on the field a lot because he was a more polished receiver, and now he's kind of rounding into maybe a more all-around polished football player.
Yeah, he said he has the best hands on the team, which, he said it, so I don't know how much stock you put into that. He basically went, I'm first, and you can put anybody else in whatever order you want to put them in. But I think the reason I asked him wasn't so he could be cocky. It's because in the slot you have to be reliable. K.J. Hill was reliable. Garrett Wilson was reliable. Paris Campbell at the end of his career was reliable because that guy gets the ball. Now, he probably won't lead the team this year because Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are on his team, but he's going to get the ball a good amount, and you have to be reliable in that spot. And it's part of why he's probably ahead of where Julian is and where Emeka is and where Marvin is as well. But also, he talked about how he's able to do some stuff and tuck it away and be a little bit more explosive than maybe I was giving him some credit for. So that's a guy to watch, especially since everyone's going to be game planning for the 2 guys outside. What can he do in the slot where he's going to be one-on-one and get a chance to find some open soft spots in zone coverage?
Get the text service 614-350-3315. If you sign up now, it takes you all the way through. The 2-week free trial takes you all the way through the season opener, so you can get any intel that we come by between now and then. I was texting right after Brian Hartline talked today. I was getting out that info that we've been talking about here on this video. And get the Buckeye Talk podcast. We do it 5 days a week. We're going to go right now, record one, going more in depth about what this offense is all about and what we expect to see from them this season, including in this passing game, including these receivers. You can find that wherever you find your podcast, or come to cleveland.com/Buckeye Talk.